4 alien bodies, short creatures in 4 separate glass jars, and a wrecked UFO craft in the bottom of the United States Capitol building? What? So I'm going to be talking about something that probably is not very well known to most people. This is a UFO crash retrieval that I was not aware of until I was researching in Ryan S. Wood's book, Magic Eyes Only. Definitely a great read. I would definitely recommend it. So this is where I first became aware of this crash retrieval. And it's interesting because the gentleman that supposedly saw this, he told his daughters years after the fact, and was feeling very self-conscious about the knowledge that he supposedly had and wanted to share it with somebody, even though he was told not to. So his daughters actually had written a letter to MUFON and explained what their father had told them, in an effort to get this information out, simply because they didn't want to keep it to themselves, and they felt like their father wanted the world to know about it, and so they made that decision to share it. So this is a sighting or a crash retrieval that I posted on my website, exosolariaunion.com, and I want to go through, what happened with that, and then also we're going to watch a video that I found on YouTube about with an interview of these 2 sisters talking about this. So this is extremely interesting. All right. So going to my website, this is going to be under UAP crash retrievals, 1900 to 1950. We do not know when this retrieval occurred. All we do know is that this incident supposedly occurred in 1939, and this incident was involving their father, like I had mentioned. The name of the father is Reverend Turner Hamilton Holt, and one of the daughters, her name is Lucille Andrew, and it was the Center for UFO Studies that received the letter, which ultimately was MUFON. So I just want to read to you the contents of this letter, and just see what you think, and then we're going to watch this YouTube video together with their interview to see what you think. So that being said, let's dive into it. So the letter states the following. Today I want to share some knowledge that has been, by request, kept secret in our family since sometime in World War II. This concerns something my father was shown by his cousin, Cordell Hull. All right, the Secretary of State under Franklin Roosevelt. My father, who was young and brilliant and sound of mind, told us this story because he didn't want the information to be lost. One day when my father was in D.C., Cordell swore him to secrecy and took him to a sub-basement in the U.S. Capitol building. As a side note from their interview, they do say that this sub-basement has now been converted to like a bomb shelter for politicians. I don't know if that's true or not, but they had mentioned that. So they took him to a sub-basement in the U.S. Capitol building and showed him an amazing sight. Four large glass jars holding four creatures unknown to my father or Cordell, and a wrecked round craft of some kind nearby. Okay. My father wanted my sister and I to make this information known long after he and Cordell were dead, because he felt it was a very important bit of information. We have researched your group and feel it is the most reliable group on the country. We hope we hope that you will research and search for this information. The jars with creatures in formaldehyde and the wrecked craft are somewhere. Cordell said, I apologize. My throat. Cordell said they were afraid they would start a panic if the public found out about it. Sincerely, Lucille Andrew, Ashland, Ohio. Interesting, right? One thought that I had reading this is the date. So, as I understand it, the UFO Studies group received the letter in 1939, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the indicator I got. So either that's when the date was they received the letter, or this incident happened in 1939. I think the incident happened in 1939, and they didn't write the letter until later in life, but I don't know that 100%. That being said, this craft that is damaged doesn't have any correlation with the 1933 Magenta, Italy crash that David Grush mentioned. Is that the same craft, maybe? Or a completely different craft? We have no idea, but just something to think about. All right, so I want to show you guys this video that I found on YouTube. So I've titled this, The Holt Sisters Talk About How Their Father, Reverend Turner Holt, so he was a minister, was shown alien bodies and a UFO craft in the sub-basement of the United States Capitol building by the then Secretary of State, Cordell Hull. And I think this was either 1935, 1939, somewhere in that range. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then we'll talk about it as it's playing, and try to keep an open mind. This is an interesting interview, so let's see what they have to say.
Anytime you're ready.
Okay. I'm Emily Holt's grandmother, and my father was the Reverend Turner Holt. And he came to visit me one day, and in around about 1948. I know that because it was when my oldest daughter was a toddler. And we were watching her play, and we were talking, and he said, there's something I wanted to tell you. He said, I think that someone in my family should know about this besides me. And I was sworn to secrecy by my cousin Cordell Hall, who was Secretary of State under Roosevelt. And he said, I just feel that I should tell you so that someone in the family would know. And so he told me about going to Washington for a conference, I think it was called, and of ministers of all denominations from all over the country. And he was a representative from this area. And why he was chosen is probably because Reverend Holt put his name in the box because it wouldn't be very likely that anyone in Washington would have picked a preacher from a little town like Shenandoah. and so while he was there, why, I'm not sure how they got together, but he and his cousin Cordell, I think it was third or fourth cousin, something like that, but it's related, yeah, through the Wright family. Yeah. And he got together with him at the state capitol building. That's where Cordell wanted him to be. I don't know if they went to lunch first or if they just met there. And Cordell said that he wanted to show him something. And he said, but you have to swear that you'll never ever tell anybody. And so they did. And so they started down in the building. And finally, my dad said, where are we going anyway? And Cordell said, well, you see. And they went down through the regular basement into a sub-basement. And so it was in the Capitol building. And so anyway, when they got down there, why, there was kind of a long hallway they went through that was lighted, but nothing off to the side of any rooms were lighted. And so when we got to where they were going, Cordell opened the door and he reached in and switched on the light, and he said, now this is something really strange that is down here. And there were, I don't recall whether it was 3 or 4, but there was these large jugs that, glass jugs that were on some kind of a stand that had these little people in them. And he said, well, they were like people, but they weren't. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, they had all the same things that we have, but he said, it seemed to me like their heads were a little too large for their body, and their eyes were shut, but I think their eyes were bigger than ours. And I said, well, how tall were they? And he said, I don't really know. And I said, about 6 feet, oh no. So we kind of went back and forth on how tall they were, and finally settled on about 4 foot tall. So then Cordell Hall called his attention to some kind of a machine that he said was a flying machine of some sort. And Dad says, well, it doesn't have wings. And this, of course, was right around 1935. And excuse me, it wasn't wrecked. Yeah, it was in pieces. Wrecked. And Dad said that there was really pretty shiny, like silver, but he said it wasn't anything that he'd ever seen before. So he couldn't say what kind of material it was. And so Cordell said, yeah, but just lift this. And Dad said, that's steady. And so Cordell went with his fingers on the edge of it, and it was very lightweight. And so they talked about that a little bit. And then, as far as I know, Cordell didn't explain anything to him. He just wanted him to see it. And then they left. And that was what Dad told me. And I don't recall that he ever said anything again about it. And I didn't ask him anything. Looking back on it, I don't know why, but I didn't.
And when did you hear the story?
It was around 1948, because that was when Eloise was
Lucille, when did you first hear?
Okay.
When did you hear the story? Did you tell you at the same time?
I don't even remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember when it was. It was just, I was young. And she's told it just the way it is.
And he approached you with the same thing, that this is a story that somebody should know?
He thought somebody eventually should know about this, about the creatures he saw. Now, I remember this saying 3 glass jars, and what he referred to them as creatures in them. He didn't say people or animals, he said creatures.
that he had never seen before.
And he only told you the story one time?
Oh yes, only once. Because I think he started having a guilty conscience that he had promised not to tell, but as time went on, he realized that somebody should know about this. And at the time, there was a sub-basement in the Capitol building. We have found out since. And now it's something else. Railroads down there or something else.
I think it's a bombshell or something for the people in the Senate Congress.
Okay. And he did definitely mention the year 1935. Was he sure of the year, or is...
No, he didn't mention the year, but it was when Cordell was Secretary of State under Roosevelt, and the letters I have are dated 1935, and that was when he was in Washington.
Okay.
So that's the only way we know. At the time, neither one of us realized that there was anything that
We didn't know it was going to be important.
no reason to remember it, you know.
Yes. Okay, and the last question, and then you can leave. Can you describe why you wrote the letter? How that came about?
Myself, I felt somebody should know about this. That as I grew older and maybe hopefully got a little more sense in my head, I thought this is something that is very important. And hearing about the Roswell thing and other things, I thought this galaxy we live in, the Milky Way, is huge. And there has to be a lot of life in it. This was my thought. And I thought, for that reason, someone should know about this. This is a big galaxy, and there are many other galaxies. However, getting from one galaxy to another certainly seems impossible, but from one solar system into this galaxy, it could be possible with advanced civilizations much more advanced than ours, because we're way out at the edge, and some of those that are more interior might be much more advanced. That was my thought, and I thought, I must tell somebody this.
And so you wrote to...
I forget who I wrote to.
Senator, was it the Center for UFO Studies in Chicago?
Heidi, yeah. I got information on who the person would be from my son, who is a scientist, and a Harvard graduate and a scientist, and he didn't want us to tell because he thought we could get into a really jumbled mess. But we were telling the truth, and the truth always, it doesn't get you in trouble unless you committed a crime, you know. And so anyhow, I just felt this must be told, as because the Roswell thing made me think something is going on, and I think the reason Dad was appointed to this committee in Washington on called World Order, and the thing was that they were afraid that we would be invaded by a lot of these so-called creatures, and that goodness only knows what would happen. And Dad's job around in this area was to calm people down and help people cope, and find other people who could help, other ministers and whoever could help cope with an invasion from outer space or from one of these other solar systems. And that was why I wrote the letter. I thought, this really needs to be told. Something has happened.
And what has been the reaction since this is many years ago you wrote the letter, correct?
I can't remember.
Yes. And what kind of reaction have you gotten in terms of?
Well, very guarded reaction from people, which is understandable. Most people don't believe it, you know, and that's understandable. But if you're a scientist or scientific minded, you realize that there has to be a lot of life out there of one kind or another, and a lot of it could be a lot smarter than we are. Most of it probably is, you know, and that's my thought. This ought to be general knowledge, because we might have to, who knows, we might have to defend ourselves. But the great, huge distances make it unlikely.
Yeah.
I don't think we have anything to worry about because of distances. And certainly, I think we have nothing to worry about from other galaxies, but perhaps from ours. But my knowledge is so limited that just knowing about the Roswell thing and then about what my father saw. And he was a very honest man and had all his faculties. And he was also a very intelligent man. Very, very intelligent.
And when did your father pass away?
It's been, let's see now, 66.
Yeah, I was trying to say in the 60s, but I don't remember the exact year.
66, in February of 66. And it's been a long time now.
Yes.
And he wasn't very old. He got leukemia and acute leukemia and died from that.
Okay.
All right, so apologize if that video was, the audio was not that great, so I apologize. The original audio wasn't great either, so I tried to compensate for that. But that being said, you know, these two Holt sisters seem to be very genuine. You know, they obviously love their father and believe him to be an honest man, a very intelligent man. So, you know, it's possible that what they're saying is true. You know, we simply don't know. We'll just have to, you know, dig into this some more and see if we can find any corroborating evidence. You know, maybe Cordell Hull has some journal entries that might shed light on this. We simply don't know. So we'll have to do some more digging on this. So definitely, if you would, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel if you find, you know, this helpful and exciting. We really appreciate that. If you please give the video a like as well, that greatly helps us out. And then if you'll please comment below about your thoughts, you know, about this incident with these aliens in the glass jar, and then obviously this this crashed UFO that was supposedly seen in the sub-basement of the Capitol building. So also want to just thank everybody who's already subscribed and supporting the channel. I really appreciate your support. And thank you again, and I will talk to you later.